Hello everyone, and thanks for listening today. I'm Samantha Pover and I'm the Business Growth and Relationship Manager here at Visit Lincoln. And today I'm joined by Katrina Pierce, who is the Development Manager at the FSB, who, as you know, are the Federation of Small Businesses. Katrina is our font of all knowledge when it comes to business info, and she regularly joins us, and I'm really happy to be able to have a chat with her today, and she's going to give us a quick update. So Katrina, if you would like to give us a bit of a round robin, as it were.
I'd love to, and there's some quite exciting stuff in here. So yeah, I think we've timed this just right. So hello everyone, it's lovely to virtually see you again. Hopefully at some stage we can actually all see each other in person, but for now we're sticking with the virtuals. It's become very familiar, hasn't it? Now, usually when you're seeing me, I think it's usually when something bad's happened, where there's been another lockdown or there's been another round of interventions or something. Hopefully we can give you a bit of more positive news now. Now, we are in the third national lockdown, and Lincolnshire, we've been in restrictions for longer than most because we were in tier 3, then tier 4, then the lockdown, and that has impacted your industry more than most. So you have my full sympathies, and we're very aware of the limitations and frustrations, difficulty and the agony that you're all facing. Really hope that we'll be coming out of this soon. March is perhaps looking likely that things might start to unlock. The hospitality completely, it might be May-ish, but we've certainly got all fingers crossed, and the economy is pointing towards trying to have everything open by June, ready for a really strong summer. And I know Matt Hancock has really publicly said there's a very strong desire to have this great British summer where people holiday in the UK, and I think that's very likely. I think that's really, really likely. I think people, even if they can travel abroad, might be slightly more nervous about that now. And I think for a county like Lincolnshire, with all of the hospitality offer that we've got city, coast, countryside, wolds, history, culture, food, everything. We've got a really, really strong potential to make this a really great summer. So hopefully that's something for us all to really, really look forward to. It's probably a tricky few weeks to get through yet, but I know the county are making very strong progress with the vaccination rollout, which is of course key to all of this unlocking and hopefully becoming a thing of the past soon. So to help get through those tricky next few weeks, we've got some good news, a few things that I can hopefully clarify for you, because I know the grants thing is quite confusing. I'm going to start with the good news. Let's start with something really, really great, really unique to Lincolnshire and quite sizable and unique. So just yesterday, so I'm speaking to you today on the 3rd of February, just yesterday, Lincolnshire County Council became the very, very first local authority in the whole of the UK to formally recognise there's been an awful lot of people left out of business support, financial aid throughout this. So we know there's the furlough scheme, we know the self-employed income support scheme, there's been the cash grants, there's been loans. There's been lots of people, several of you probably included, if not more, that have been falling between those gaps. If you're a company director that takes an annual dividend, not been able to claim anything. If you are a startup, if you started up your hotel, your restaurant, your cafe in 2019 or early 2020, there was no real record of you with HMRC, so you've not been able to claim anything. There's also been a few people like freelancers that have been frozen out of this support as well. Now, FSB, this has been a long-standing campaign for the full 11 months that we've been going through this crisis so far, to bang the drum and talk to Treasury, and we have been talking direct to Treasury, direct to the Chancellor, in fact, having what I understand as quite challenging conversations with that department, to say there are still 5 million people nationally falling between these gaps. This is not acceptable, poses an individual risk to those individual people, but also an enormous risk to the economy, locally and nationally. What are you going to do? And I'm sure you don't need to tell me, that needs to tell you that that support hasn't been coming through from Treasury as yet. We haven't given up fighting. But in the meantime, locally, Lincolnshire County Council have sat up and listened to what we've been saying and have noticed themselves, because of course they have conversations with the likes of you and lots of other businesses, but they've really listened to our campaign to recognise what a risk this is to the individuals, how wrong it is that these people have been left out, and what a risk that is to the Lincolnshire economy and our prosperity and future growth and opportunity and all of that. So just yesterday, they announced a £12 million package of support that is unique, first in the country, only one so far. We know lots of other local authorities are looking on with envious eyes today at Lincolnshire, because we've really blazed a trail here in the county to recognise the agony and the frustration that people who've been left out of this support have faced, how unfair it is, how valuable these people are to the economy recovering. Those businesses go away, they fail, they fall, where they're not paying business rates in the future, they're not employing people, they're not contributing to that local economy. So it's really, really important. And we want to recognise those individuals as well. So it's big thanks from us to Lincolnshire County Council for sitting up, for listening and acting really quick in a massive way. So this is a £12 million pot of money, but it just break down into some smaller pots. Two of which are really, really suitable for your industry. So first and foremost, the biggest part is this emergency response. £7 million of money to pay £5,000 to £10,000 grants to people that have been frozen out of that support so far. As you can imagine, there is quite strict criteria because we need to make sure that whoever applies for this can honestly say they've not had any of the support, so it can go as far as possible to support people that really haven't had anything. You'll need to provide, if you're a director, need to provide a certificate of incorporation, that kind of thing, just to verify you are who you say you are and you're entitled to what you say you're entitled to. But that will go live on the 23rd of February. It's got to just go through a sort of ratification process with the council, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a done deal, and that will open on the 23rd of February. So if any of Visit Lincoln partners are, and those people that I'm talking about that have not had any support so far, this is for you. So it'll be kind of on a first come first served basis, so be primed and ready for the 23rd. There'll be some information released beforehand on Lincolnshire County Council's website about what evidence you might need to supply, because you need to be ready to apply when it's live. But 23rd of February, keep that in your diaries, because this is the big significant intervention that's unique to our county, so please don't miss that. Elsewhere, beyond this emergency response, just to plug the gaps in support, the council have also been really clever in looking beyond that and seeing there's, again, that huge opportunity for Lincolnshire to recover strong if there was just a bit of investment there. So there's also going to be £1 million worth of vouchers for Lincolnshire businesses. So if you need to build, this is specifically for digital platforms, if you need to rebuild your website, build a website from scratch, form an e-commerce part of your business, put a booking system in, there's going to be £1 million worth of vouchers for you to claim from the council to help support that work, because obviously we've all learned with working remotely over the last year, people want to do things remotely, they want to use online systems more, and if it makes your business that bit more efficient, then fantastic. So there's going to be £1 million worth of vouchers opening. That might come a little later than the 23rd of Feb. It's the emergency response pot that's opening then, but do keep your eye out for that. There's also going to be another £1.5 million dedicated to villages and local initiatives. So that's helping village and market town high streets, so cafes, shops, hotels, B&Bs in the villages, in the market towns, in your Louth, your Woodall Spas, your Market Deepings, your Gainsboroughs are going to be able to apply for some funding of around between £3,000 and £25,000 again, the detail will come out, but for instance, if you want to revive your shopfront, new signage, things like that. So that's something to look out for and could really, really benefit this sector. So please don't miss that. And then finally, there's going to be another £2.5 million for rapid growth funds. So that seems to be typically aimed at younger people to start up businesses, because we know there's going to be a lot of people coming out of school, college, university, really struggling to get a job. But it's not exclusively for that, as I understand it at the moment. So if someone wants to radically change a business, start up a business, there's going to be a pot of money there. Now, again, there'll be strict criteria of who's eligible, what it's for, what you can spend the money on. But that's another £2.5 million that doesn't exist anywhere else outside of Lincolnshire. So this is all fantastic, fantastic news. The emergency response stuff, that's £7 million. It's going to plug the gaps in support. If it helps get people out of debt, pay their bills, meet their rates, this is fantastic money. It's £5,000 to £10,000. It's not going to replace 50 grand's worth of lost business. It's not designed to do that, and the council aren't in a position to offer that kind of money. And to be honest, nor should they. This isn't a council's job. What they've done is a significant and unusual intervention here, but thank God they have. So we need to think ourselves really lucky that we live in Lincolnshire and we've got a council that recognises the value of independent businesses in the county. So this is a real win this week. So I'm absolutely buzzing about it, and I've known for a while, and it's absolutely killed me not to say anything. So it's a pleasure to be able to tell you about it now. I'll send Samantha some links about that, some early news on this scheme if you want to have a look, or even if you just Google Lincolnshire County Council today, the news will pop up and show you exactly what that scheme looks like. But do keep your eye out for the 23rd of Feb. That's the soonest. So elsewhere, since we last spoke, we have gone into, again, third national lockdown. That's changed the grant scheme slightly. So those of you that have been really getting used to the local restrictions grant scheme, those payments of around £1,300 to £4,000 for every 28 days that you've been closed, that's still open to cover the period that you're closed. Again, it's not massive amounts of money. It's designed just to keep your business ticking over. Where I've heard businesses getting quite confused, and it doesn't help, because this matrix of grants and schemes and pots of money has kind of grown over the last 11 months, and it's not really not really a slick process when it's not that easy to understand, because it's kind of patchwork. Things keep getting added in as the situation changes. So businesses are quite confused about this grant scheme. So what you need to know today is the local restrictions grant scheme is still open, but if for any reason you see that it says the word closed after it, that doesn't mean the system's closed, that the scheme is closed. It means it's for closed businesses. Okay, so that's where people are getting quite confused. So that's if you're in a business that is mandatorily required to close, you've been told by government, by law, because you're in hospitality, that you have to close. So that would have served November and December. In January, when we go into times of national lockdown, that local restrictions grant scheme is superseded by a national scheme called Local Restrictions Grant Scheme Addendum. What does that even mean? This is why people are getting confused. But it's the same scheme. It just means it's not localized, because we're in a tier system, we're in a time of national restriction. So it's just a sort of slightly tweaked version. So if you've had the local restrictions grant scheme payouts from your local authority, you should, in theory, hopefully get them automatically paid into your bank account without you having to do much more. But if for any reason you haven't had anything, and it's because your local authority needed you to reapply under the addendum scheme, go ahead and do that with local authority. It's just the same system, the same application process that you went through for the local scheme. It's just got a different name, and it's just, again, for councils, this isn't easy stuff for them to do. So they're having to constantly build websites and build application forms for various schemes that get dreamt up and announced quite last minute. So if you need to claim for November, December and haven't had anything, take action now. You should have hopefully had everything. If you are due something for January, for the whole period that we've been closed so far, it's under the LRGS addendum scheme. It is quite confusing, but if ever in any confusion, you're more than welcome to ring me or drop a contact, or get Samantha to ask me what the hell it means, because it isn't that easy. But essentially all you need to know is the grant schemes are open, they've got slightly different names. If you haven't had anything, go and apply. If you've had it, you don't need to do any more. Hands off. I know the councils, God bless them, and I know it sound like I'm really trying to defend them, but I speak to all of them. We have 7 local authorities and a county council here in Lincolnshire, and I do speak to the teams there throughout the week all the time. They are just people that are trying to do the very best, just like all of us are in our jobs. They're trying to do the best with a confusing situation, being put into schemes that they're not designed to set up and deliver. So it is quite confusing for them. They are trying their best to make it as easy as possible, but it's not quite as simple as we'd always like it to be for them as well. So if you're ever in any doubt, either ring your council. They are often quite stretched, the teams that are dealing with this. Sometimes it might be better to send an email. They can systematically go through emails a little bit than constantly picking up the phone, and you're more likely to get a response. You might have a little bit of a wait, but I'm sure they will get back to you. And if there's anything, you're running into any problems that you don't understand, you're more than welcome to call on our advice anytime. As part of the grant scheme is also the additional restrictions grants still open. That's a kind of discretionary pot of money that each council has got. That's for businesses that don't naturally fit into the local restrictions grant scheme, for businesses that have been forced to close. If you're retail, hospitality, but your business has been significantly impacted. So I'm thinking of something like a laundry business that I know of here in Lincolnshire that services your sector. They do laundry and towels and tablecloths for hospitality. Now they're not strictly closed because the government hasn't said you have to close, because they're not hospitality. It's not a place where people gather, but they've got no business. They're part of a supply chain that isn't working. So that additional restrictions grant scheme is for businesses like that aren't necessarily forced to close or don't naturally fit into the other eligibility, but are still severely impacted. That's still open with each of the local authorities. Do look into that if you think you're entitled to something. Again, it's not millions of pounds, it's hundreds or even a few thousand, but it's better than nothing. What I will say is there's Business Lincolnshire's website is a really good place to look for all of this, because it's got all of the direct links for each of these schemes to each of Lincolnshire's councils. It's a really good one-stop shop to find all of this. And so if in doubt, go and have a look there, or you can get in touch with us. Now, also, again, since we last spoke, because we're in national lockdown, there's been another round of cash grants announced by the Chancellor almost a month ago. So you will remember last spring we had the leisure, hospitality and retail grants that were £10,000 to £25,000 that were just automatically paid out to ratepayers or those on small business rate relief. We were campaigning for another round of that to come through as a priority, because they are a lifeline. They're an absolute lifeline, those grants. They have come through again, but they're nowhere near as generous as they were or probably should be, but they are what they are at this stage. So they are anywhere between £4,000 and £9,000 for the foreseeable future. So they are based on your rateable value. So if you're at the 15 grand end, it's about £4,000. If you are £51,000 and above, you're at the £9,000 end. So again, it's not going to change your life, but it will make it that little bit easier. I believe the councils are trying to pay out automatically where they think they're due. But if you haven't had one and you believe you should, and probably most businesses in Visit Lincoln's partnership with premises certainly should be entitled to that. So if you've not had anything yet, look into it, apply. If you've had something and your council automatically paid it out, fantastic, you need to do no more. But if you think you're due something and haven't had it yet, or haven't had word on anything, just look into it with your local authority, and fingers crossed you'll be getting payout. They're being paid out kind of now, really, over the last couple of weeks. So do look into that. That's another pot of money that you're not going to have to pay back. You will have to declare it because it's a grant. You have to declare it as income, but it's not a loan you've got to pay back. So if you can have it, get it as soon as. So that's hopefully some good news. I know it's mixed in with a bit of difficulty that we're closed. We're closed for the foreseeable future yet again, but there is a little bit of money in between these few pots of money designed to keep you ticking along until hopefully you can come back with a bang in the spring. So that's on grants. Now, again, we're speaking to you on the 3rd of February. That means a month today is budget. It's the budget. So we're doing some very, very strong campaigning with Treasury and all the various government departments, feeding directly into BEIS, Treasury, and anyone else that listen to us, quite frankly, about what support and what initiatives need to be put in place to help businesses recover, grow, come back strong and start up, because of course furlough scheme ends at the end, as we understand it as of today. At the end of April, the furlough scheme will formally close, which means a lot of people either have to go back to work, and hopefully your business will be in a position to welcome them back and pay them, or lots of people unfortunately will probably be made redundant and will be looking for work elsewhere or want to go it alone. So we need to see with urgent clarity from the Chancellor what the recovery plan looks like, what the support plan looks like for businesses and for individuals. So we are doing all we can there. Of course, it's never a done deal until the Chancellor stands up in Parliament or emerges with his red box what's going to be announced. But we're doing all we can to drive down the costs of doing business. So things like business rates, obviously we've had complete relief from those, particularly for smaller businesses over the last year. Even bigger businesses like Tesco's, they were entitled to it, but they've handed their money back because, to be honest, they really shouldn't, probably shouldn't be entitled to that. They've done the right thing and handed their money back. So it's really the smaller businesses and the independent businesses that really need to see that relief extended for the next year or however long to help businesses recover, because quite frankly, if businesses like yours need to start paying rates again quite soon, there's got to be money in the bank to do that. You've got to be operating to have that money in the bank. So we're pushing as hard as we possibly can to get some clarity and an extension on that relief. I can make no promises. All I can say is what we're standing up and saying. We think that this is absolutely the right thing. And it just seems to make sense, because if you charge businesses those rates, they're probably not going to be in a position to pay them. So why put the Treasury, HMRC and those individuals under that much strain, because they're probably not going to pay them anyway. So fingers crossed we will get somewhere with that. If it does come in that they have to be paid, of course they'll have to be paid. But we significantly hope that that's not going to be the case. So watch this space on that one. There's something else that's going to impact on your industry. We're pushing for that VAT discount to be continued for the next 6 months, perhaps the next year, because hopefully that has been something, particularly over the summer when we were open, really did benefit you, whether you chose to pass on that discount to your customers or keep that for yourself. Whatever you did, however you made it work, it seems to have done the job. It seems to have patched a bit of a hole anyway, and we feel it would be unfair to see that return for the public, for the spending public, but also for your industry. That would be unfair to see that come back before the economy is really, really recovered. So we're pushing for that to be extended, and again, fingers crossed that will be something we can talk to you about in a month's time and see some progress on. Fingers crossed, and I'm sure that's something that really interests you, Samantha, as well, really, to see that VAT discount extended, especially if Matt Hancock wants us all to holiday in the UK. Wouldn't it be nice for it either to be that bit cheaper for you to deliver it or that bit cheaper for people to go on holiday? So it seems to make sense. Fingers crossed, but a month today we shall know. So that's sort of everything on grants and lockdowns and what we're campaigning for. Elsewhere, yeah, furlough is the next thing to really be aware of. I'm sure with an industry like this that's essentially been closed realistically since what I want to say October, is it November, when all the months are blending into one another, when you've been formally closed before the tier system came in. Realistically, it was September, wasn't it, when the tier system came in. We had a few months of respite over the summer where your industry could open. We had Eat Out to Help Out. I know that went down really, really well in the county. Have heard from some businesses that if they'd known that Eat Out to Help Out was going to be at the expense of having to be closed over Christmas and closed for, firework night, Halloween, Christmas, all of that, they probably wouldn't have gone for it. But little did we know then what we were in for with the virus. And a crystal ball would be a fine thing, but no one's got access to one as far as I'm aware. So it seems like a long time that we've been closed. I know furlough has been an absolute lifeline to your businesses and your staff. It is still there. As far as we know, it's not going to change between now and when it ends at the end of April, but it will end. It will end at some stage. Don't know if they'll tick it over given where we are with the virus. I think we're all hoping we'd tick over into 2021 and we'd be in a far stronger position. Things would be unlocked a lot more. We'd have far less restrictions. There'd be a bit more money pumping through the economy, but we're not there yet. So last we heard from the Chancellor was the furlough would be open until the end of April. He might extend it. I have no idea at this stage. My gut says probably not, because it costs the economy so much money. And hopefully by April, people will begin to get back to work in some way or other. I do fear that hospitality might be the last to go back, and in which case, what does that mean for you and your staff? So we're pushing that there might be a kind of tiered system for furlough, whereas if businesses can go back and they're open and there's really no excuses for their staff to be back working in whatever capacity, then of course that shouldn't be open to businesses that can go back, pay their staff and keep them occupied. For businesses that will be forced to close for that little bit longer, we're saying hospitality particularly, furlough needs to stay in place. But again, it's not our decision. We can only bang the drum. But we are certainly doing all we can to persuade the Chancellor that that's the case. So fingers crossed. But it is something to be aware of until we hear differently. Prepare for furlough ending at the end of April. And if you need to be making decisions around redundancies, which is heartbreaking to even think about, it's awful for me to even say. So for you to go through it, I can't imagine what that feels like, that prospect. Unfortunately, it's something you're probably going to have to start thinking about quite soon, so that you're within the consultation period to talk to your staff about redundancy options before furlough ends. It's an awful thing to think about. I take no pleasure in having to raise it, but it is something to be aware of. Unless anything changes, furlough will end at the end of April, and you need to prepare for what you're going to do, whether you're going to bring your staff back, ask them to take reduced hours, or unfortunately consider redundancy. And you need to start thinking about that now and not at the end of April, unfortunately. Very sad, and I certainly hope we don't see huge swathes of redundancies. That's awful for the businesses and the individuals, and for the local economy. Everyone that's put out of work is, it's a little dent in our county's heart, isn't it? It's awful. And I know no business owner ever takes pleasure in going through a redundancy. It's stressful, it's heartbreaking, it's often feel full of guilt, but it's certainly not personal. We always know that it's not personal. It's a system of where we are, unfortunately, with our economy. So I certainly hope it's not something you're having to think about, but if you are, please start putting in get your thinking cap on now, and certainly by March, make preparations for what you think you're going to do. In a month's time, if this is announced alongside the budget on the 3rd of February, if the Chancellor decides to extend furlough for certain sectors, you can relax. But as of today, we don't know what will happen. As far as we're aware, it'll end in April, and you need to make your preparations now. So that's not a pleasant thing to think about, but I do just feel it wouldn't be right for me to visit you today and not sort of help manage your expectations a bit, really. Let's look at something else positive, shall we? Let's move on from that. What else you'll have seen since last spoken was the decision in the Supreme Court on business interruption insurance. Now, I'm not an insurance expert. This is complex stuff, so I'm not going to pretend I know the ins and outs of it all and how it works. What I will say is this is a win for the little guy, win for businesses that the right thing, took out business interruption insurance for whatever unforeseen circumstance might put them out of business, whether that was flooding, whether it was, a hurricane or whether it was an infectious disease that came from the east and we had no idea what it was called a year ago, or December 2019, businesses have done the right thing in taking out business interruption insurance. But because COVID-19 wasn't known about and specifically named as a known disease on those business on those insurance documents, thousands upon thousands, if not millions of businesses have not been able to claim, which is scandalous, quite frankly, absolutely scandalous. When you've taken out the right policy, paid your money in good faith and doing the right responsible thing to take out insurance for the unforeseen, to then be told, sorry, this thing didn't exist and therefore we can't make a valid claim against it because it wasn't specifically stated. Now, about 2 weeks ago, into the Supreme Court, this went to the Supreme Court as a decision, and the ruling came back that yes, this was unfair, and there needs to be a lot more sense applied to these insurance payouts. So it's great news, and it is a win, and it's definitely a moral win, if nothing else. What I will say is, it is kind of almost case by case basis. I am hearing of people that have taken out business interruption insurance and have tried to go back and claim since the decision was made in the Supreme Court, but their insurer is still saying, I'm sorry, your policy still doesn't fulfill the criteria. So this isn't me crushing your dreams of saying, this isn't quite what it's cracked up to be. It's just saying case by case basis, manage your expectations, but do speak to your insurer. If you took out business interruption insurance with whatever insurer, you were told you couldn't claim, do go back and try again and state that ruling in the Supreme Court. Just Google it and get a news article that states it if you're in any way unsure, because there are now rulings in place or rules in place that they must meet, but it is case by case basis. It's based on individual policies. So just check your own policy, but do go back and claim again. I really hope you're one of these people that gets through. I really, really hope you are. It's just I've heard of one or two where it's not been quite as cut and dry as it should seem. So I just want to manage expectations, but it is certainly another win and a step in the right direction, a win for the little guy. Now tomorrow, so that's the 4th of February, we've got a free webinar that's open to all. You don't have to be an FSB member, you can attend this from wherever you are. This is discussing the Supreme Court decision on business interruption insurance. So on there, we've got some actual experts who know far more about this than I. That's free and open to you to attend. You can ask questions in the chat. You can submit questions before, but we've got one of our policy advisors, we've got someone from our own FSB insurance team, and we've got someone from a law firm who looks after financial regulations. So you can ask questions to your experts there. So I know Samantha's probably going to send the link out to you to book onto that for free. So that's tomorrow, 4th of February, midday till 1 p.m. So please do attend that. If you've got any quibbles, you're not sure what the hell it all means, how you go about claiming, what's in your arsenal, really if you're going to go back and claim, make sure that you're armed with all the information and you can quote the law and the judge and all of that kind of thing. So I'd really encourage you to book onto that. And that's free, so please do take advantage. So I think that's an awful lot that we've gone through there. I think that's probably about it for today. There's things that crop up all the time, and we have unfortunately not out of this yet. Hopefully there is some light at the end of the tunnel with the progress we're making locally, if not nationally, with the rollout of the vaccine. That £12 million package from the council, which is unique so far. It was completely unique. And with what's happened with the ruling on insurance, we're in a slightly better position. I know that was probably very, very easy for you. Must be thinking it's really easy for you to say, but my hotel or my restaurant has been closed for many months, Katrina. Have some sensitivity. You are in my thoughts all the time. I really do feel for you, and I think you've been treated very unfairly. But we are where we are with the virus. But I just really hope that we can come back strong, have people holidaying in flocks to Lincolnshire from the spring onwards, and they'll come back year after year once they see what a gem we've got here. So step in the right direction, not out of the woods yet, and I do really feel for you, but hopefully we are getting there and there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Is that okay, Samantha? There's quite a lot there, but hopefully some of it's good stuff.
There was lots to get through, Katrina, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us all today. And I do think your insights are, they're invaluable. And I'd just like to also reiterate that, I think sometimes people forget how much work goes in to what you lobby and campaign about, and how genuinely you are, at how much you care. I mean, I speak to you quite regularly, and I know that you almost on a case-to-case basis. You genuinely care about these businesses, and you're in a huge ambassador for Lincolnshire, and I know you work so hard. I think some of the concerns that you've mentioned today, I see with our partners, and furlough being one of them, furlough scheme coming to an end, and quite concerning, and it's devastating for people to have to start thinking about redundancies, because it just goes against everything they want to do. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and they see it as they're a family, within hospitality, or within any business really, but hospitality is they're so sociable, and you're a real team. Well,
and it's an industry that's based on welcoming people and wanting to work with people and talk to people. It's not an industry that that thrives on sitting behind a desk anonymously and never coming into contact with people. It attracts people that love people and want to welcome people and give them a great time, and show them what a great gem we've got here. And I'm Lincolnshire born and raised. I was born here, raised here, educated here, worked here all my life. I'm really passionate about people recognising what a fantastic place we've got here. I do think we've flown under the radar a little bit sometimes, and I think hopefully if there is any kind of silver lining from this, when we look back in 5 years' time, if it's the fact that people open their eyes to what else is in the UK, rather than going to Spain or France or Italy or America, what we've got right here, and if that's something that comes out of this, then I think
that will be a positive.
No, I don't want to say thank you for it, because God, we don't want to remember this or thank you for anything, but there has to be a positive outcome.
It has given the opportunity for a light to be shone on Lincoln a little bit more, and Lincolnshire as a county, and like you said earlier, we do have, you and I are of the same belief. We have everything. We have the coast, we have walking, the wolds, heritage, history.
No mountains or snow. That's it. We've just no mountains.
No, but a steep hill.
Well, when that's snowy, we've seen people sliding down that. Yeah, why not?
But I think if people just, if our partners and anyone else listening today, if they just keep an eye on, on the budget's going to be coming up in a month, as you say, so just keep an eye on progress there and what might be happening, and sort of get a sentiment, get a feeling for where things are going, be ready to make changes, because it may be, like you say, it would be amazing if the furlough scheme could be a sort of a phased approach.
Or tapered at least.
And then that would at least give people, the hospitality industry, a little bit of a fighting chance. And I think keep the 23rd in mind, because that's that important date, so people need to be there. And also I think just when people are looking at all these, putting in for their grants or different schemes, different things that are available, just going back to just ask people to be patient. They are, everybody on the end of that phone is just trying to do a job, just like you said, you and I know it's hugely frustrating, and people are getting really, uptight about it's complicated and complex to fill the forms in, and then they don't fully understand it. But let's just all show a little bit of patience and be kind to each other. We're all some of the staff have not they've been shuffled around in different departments, and they're just trying to do their best to help businesses. So
they are to
do that.
I think councils can be a bit of a kind of like a bit of an enemy. I think people think, it's councils, it's public money, they're just wasting public money.
Yes.
And there's only so much you can do to counteract that belief. But from what I see, the people at the sort of business side of the council, obviously I'm not dealing with health and social care or bin collections, from the council and the economic side of all the local authorities and the county council, and the LEP and the Growth Hub, all of those people, they feel as strongly about Lincolnshire businesses surviving and thriving as much as I do and you do, Samantha. They live and breathe this stuff. They want to do the very, very best job possible. We all win. If Lincolnshire businesses win, we all win.
We all win.
School kids win. The shops win. The school, the university, everyone wins if Lincolnshire businesses win. So we're all, thoroughly behind that. And Lincolnshire's a big county. Geographically, we're a massive county, but as a business community, we're actually quite small. Everyone seems to know each other. We all seem to know each other. Same names come up time and time again, and that's the same with the councils. They are just people trying to do their job under really stressful circumstances, trying to make sense of all this stuff themselves. I've even heard from people at DWP with the Kickstart scheme and all of this. They often find out about that stuff at the same time we do. in the news. So they're sometimes like, oh, okay, I've got to try and make sense of this when I've got really confused people on the end of the line. So this isn't a defence for, you know, the big bad counts. It's just a kind of word to say they're trying their best. I know it will feel frustrating for you if you've applied for a grant and you feel your application's gone into a big black hole. They're trying. They really are trying.
They are. And what what fantastic news yesterday. And we should be, you know, hugely thankful and very proud. And I know that other counties are looking on quite, you know, with sort of a bated breath almost, thinking, wow, you know, we are a trailblazer in that way. You know, to be at the forefront of that is amazing. So we should be very
a county
thankful.
like Lincolnshire, a county, I think people would have thought if this had come from Brighton or Birmingham or Manchester, people would have thought, well, yeah, of course. That's what they're going to do. But you know, we're a large rural county that, you know, I'm sure some people still get, you're from Lincolnshire, where's that? Oh, Skegness, I've heard of Skegness, or I've heard of Nottingham. We're sort of between that bracket. So I think for this to come, it's a really bold intervention. They didn't have to do it. I think it's the right thing, and it is the right thing, and it actually makes sense economically to the council. It makes sense. But it's the right moral thing to do. The councils have sat up and realised, hang on, there's a lot of people that aren't getting any help here. There are people, we need to help them. We've got a bit of money in the reserves, and where they've got this money from years worth of reserves. This is years of being really, really prudent and careful in their spending. For that rainy day, which is we are in that rainy day, so they've done the right thing. But I'm so proud this has come from Lincolnshire first in such a significant scale as well. £12 million. When I was telling people,
huge amount of money.
When I was telling people just advance of this, advances going internally, obviously just in FSB, and people go, so do you mean £12 million? I was like, yes, £12 million, 12 million. So it's incredible for it to be unique, the first, and at this scale is incredible. So I am so proud of Lincolnshire, generally, but this week especially, that we've blazed a trail, and others will follow in our wake, whether they'll be able to do it on the same scale, whether they can do it at all. Some councils are really in dire straits across the country. They might not be able to do this at all. But we are, for today, remain the trailblazers.
We are.
The
spotlight is on us, which is you know, another good thing, actually.
I've been peacocking around all day, honestly.
Yes, we've got lots of attention, so it's great.
Rightly so.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely to speak to you, Katrina, and I think if we can perhaps catch up maybe just
after the budget, I think.
Yes, I think with the budget, and then and after that we can have a quick roundup again, and I think that'd be hugely beneficial. And I will. I've already circulated the webinar regarding the insurance, and I'll do that again. If anybody wants any information on that, they can contact me. And I do know that, as I say, Katrina's always got time for everybody. I don't know where she finds enough hours in the day, but if anybody wants some, you know, help, and I can't advise, I will always point them to you, and I know you've always got time to speak to them, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
No problem.
Right, well, I'll speak to you soon, Katrina, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Bye.